Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome to my hobby blog. Today we are doing a special, completely unplanned video. Oh, you can actually see it. It's so tall that you can see it. We're doing a ranking of all the original, I guess, casting Star Trek films. This is the really nice, very beefy box set that you can get that comes with the entire show of the original series. All 3 seasons of it comes with the animated series, which I haven't seen, but it also comes with the 6 original movies. The first one is Star Trek The Motion Picture, the second one is Wrath of Khan, and then it's Search for Spock. The fourth one is The Voyage Home. The fifth one is The Final Frontier, and the final one is I'm trying to remember. The Undiscovered Country. Okay. So what spurred this on for me, because I wasn't planning this at all. Okay, I was being serious. I've actually been watching Daisuke Beppu's live stream series all about this movie series, about the Star Trek original series. And I was there about every week. I had to skip 1 week, but for the most part, I was there in the comment section, discussing the movie, really diving deep and listening to his comments, listening to him break down each and every plot point and really discuss the behind the scenes. Each one is about 2.5 hours of content, so it's really nice if you have any desire to go over there and learn more about Star Trek. Please go over there. He says he's not an expert, but he is very, very informed about the movies, and I learned a whole lot watching through them. So please go over there and say that I sent you, and I'm sure that'll make his day. So we're going to go through one by one before the ranking and just kind of talk about each movie. And by talk about, I mean I'm just going to read the plot synopsis and then of each movie in order, and then give my ranking and explain why it is where it is. So the first movie, Star Trek The Motion Picture, it came out in 1979, shortly after Star Wars. That kind of brought back a lot of interest in the Star Trek series because it was canceled about a decade before, and everybody was really pissed off about it. The network canceled it and said there weren't high enough ratings or something. It was some weird thing because it was Star Trek. It was one of the biggest TV shows at the time, and they canceled it before they could do a season 4. And so for years, there was nothing. And then Star Wars came out, made sci-fi probably one of the biggest genres, because before this, there was just Star Trek. That was really the only well-made sci-fi. I mean, there's a lot of really boring 1950s sci-fi, which I've talked about on the channel before, mostly in The Withering Watchpile, where, the big scare was communism, and each monster was like a symbol for communism. And it was all the, your normal everyday citizens, trying to beat the monster, and they always win. And there's about 40 minutes of talking, a fun attack scene, 40 minutes of talking, an attack scene, and then 30 minutes of slightly interesting talking, and then the final fight with the monster. And then Star Trek was like, nah, we're going to have fun with sci-fi. And then Star Wars, of course, everyone knows Star Wars. And then 1979, the producers wanted a movie. Got the whole crew back together. Got Kirk, Spock, Chekhov, Uhura, George Takei playing, what is his name? I always forget his name. Sulu. You have Scotty, who is, a lot of fun. You have Spock. You have Dr. McCoy, who is my personal favorite. I love McCoy. But they all came back to make this movie. And so we shall go on to the plot of the first movie, called The Motion Picture. When a destructive space entity is spotted approaching Earth, Admiral Kirk, he's no longer captain, he's been promoted, Kirk resumes command of the Starship Enterprise in order to intercept, examine, and hopefully stop it. My thoughts on this movie will come later when I do the ranking. The second movie, probably the most famous, the most well-received, the highest rated of the Star Trek films, The Wrath of Khan. There's no way you haven't heard of this movie. If you don't know the character of Khan, he originally was featured in one of the original episodes of the TV show called Bad Seed. And he's basically a superhuman. Before the Earth was having a genetics war, I believe. It's been years since I've seen the episode, but I remember that there was some big war, and he was a scientist, and he pumped himself full of special genes and made himself a whole lot smarter, and he got a whole crew together and basically formed like a superhuman crew. And then they got shot off into space, or they shot themselves into space, and they wake up, they interact with Captain Kirk and the crew of the Starship Enterprise, and then Captain Kirk bests him, and they send them off to a different planet in order to, colonize. And so that was the kind of this rough synopsis that I remember from the original episode. But this movie finds James T. Kirk feeling old. The prospect of accompanying his old ship, the Enterprise, on a 2-week cadet cruise is not making him feel any younger. But the training cruise becomes a life-or-death struggle when Khan escapes from years of exile and captures the power of creation itself. This movie is very, very awesome. Everybody loves it. Everybody loves Khan. My thoughts will come later, of course, as I just give non-spoilery descriptions of each movie. So for those who haven't seen them, you can kind of get a general sense, and then during my ranking, I'll try to stay spoilers, but there will be some things that I will have to spoil, especially as we go from movie to movie. So moving on to Star Trek 3. This is one that is kind of split among the fandom, at least from what I could see in Daisuke's live stream. Either people really like it or they really don't like it. And where I belong will come later. But basically, this movie is about Admiral Kirk and his bridge crew risk their careers stealing the decommissioned Enterprise to return to the restricted Genesis planet to recover somebody's body. They have it here on the description. I can't say that yet. I don't want to spoil it. But the search for Spock, my thoughts on that will come later. So we're going on to the fourth one, which is called The Voyage Home. This one finds Leonard Nimoy being the director of this one, which was not... It was a first-time experience for him. And this one is very fairly received very well. I will say more later. I keep wanting to jump right in, but I need to stay with the format. Here's the description. It is the 23rd century, and a mysterious alien power is threatening Earth by evaporating the oceans and destroying the atmosphere. In a frantic attempt to save mankind, Kirk and his crew must time travel back to 1986, San Francisco, where they find a world of punk, pizza, and exact change buses that are as alien as anything they've ever encountered in the far reaches of the galaxy. a thrilling, action-packed Star Trek adventure. I felt the need to say that. This one has a really cool box art. I will give it that. Unfortunately, they don't have individual things for this release. It is all just kind of in a blue case. I don't want to open it. I don't want to have to deal with that. So we're going to go on to the second to last movie they made with the original crew. It is called The Final Frontier. This one finds the crew of the Federation Starship Enterprise is called to Nimbus 3, the planet of intergalactic peace. They are to negotiate in a case of kidnapping, only to find that the kidnapper is a relative of Spock. This man is possessed by his lifelong search for the planet Shakari, which is supposed to be the source of all life. Together they begin to search for this mysterious planet. This one, people say that the even-numbered movies are the best ones, and the odd-numbered ones are the worst. This is an odd-numbered one, and one that I would disagree on with the general consensus. I will go into that later, because we're going to finish describing the final movie, for those who don't know. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. After years of war, the Federation and the Klingon Empire find themselves on the brink of a peace summit when a Klingon ship is nearly destroyed by an apparent attack from the Enterprise. Both worlds brace for what may be the deadliest encounter. Very reminiscent of the Cold War. It is not hard to see that. It definitely leaks into the film quite a bit. So, shall we go on to my ranking? I'm going to start from bottom to the top, of course, going from my least favorite to my favorite. None of these are bad films. It is really hard to say that they are bad in any way. The thing is preference in terms of how I rank these. I think they're all great. Some of them I love so much. Some I don't like as much as the others. And so with all that said, my number 6 spot, my bottom of the list, is Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. This one, it does really nothing new for the Star Trek formula, in my opinion. This movie, it doesn't seem like there was a spark of creativity when they were making this, because everybody on the cast, they look like they don't want to be there. The antagonists aren't really noteworthy. We have Christopher Plummer in the movie, who is awesome in everything he's in. And he's the best part of the movie, and he's not even the main villain. He's a sidekick. And the Klingons, they're probably one of the most well-known of the antagonist factions against the Federation. They're a war-focused society. That's how they prove their strength. They're very technological. But in this movie, they're just okay. I don't really like the Klingons in this movie. I think the Klingons were at their best when they were in the original series. I haven't watched Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Voyager, Discovery, Picard. I haven't seen anything outside the original series and the movies. So I am going in with just that kind of perspective. I plan on seeing TNG eventually. I really do. But everything that I know about the Klingons and Star Trek and everything is rooted in the original series. And I loved the Klingons in the TV show. They were the most interesting of the villains. I enjoy the Romulans a lot, which they do appear in this movie too, because this is very much a peace summit kind of movie where all the different races are coming together to negotiate and find peace between each other. And this came out in 1991. Very pivotal year in modern history, the fall of the Soviet Union. This movie is very much a metaphor for that. I find this Cold War very interesting to read about. I know Star Trek very much leans on the historical and the moral aspects of history, but I think this movie should have been made earlier, or not earlier in history, but I think with the younger cast members and the younger directors and Gene Roddenberry, who's alive when this movie is made, I think would have really helped it. I find this movie boring. I find it uninspired. I just don't like it. It's still a very well-made movie. It's entertaining for the most part. I love the end when we have Kirk trying to find the assassins before they can kill the Klingon ambassadors that they're trying to settle a peace treaty with. And the camera is following everybody as they're trying to load the photon torpedo. And we have Scotty and Chekhov, I believe. They're loading up the torpedo, and Captain Kirk, he's been demoted by this point in the series. He's like, fire! And the camera zooms in as he says that. He's like, fire! And it's you see the torpedo flying. That's my favorite part of the movie. And it knocks the assassin ship out, and it is absolutely amazing. That's probably my favorite moment. Star Trek 6, of course, is at the bottom of my list. And I feel bad because some people do like it. I don't. My next spot is number 5. My number 5 spot goes to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Spoilers, but this movie has to do with finding the body of Spock, who died in the most recent Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. I thought this movie came way too soon. We did not spend enough time without Spock. I don't really like the moment they find him and the rest of the movie. I like everything leading up to then. Because the first time I watched this movie, I'd seen all these movies before. But the first time I saw Search for Spock, I just knew he was going to come back. There was no tension. There was no suspense in terms of, oh, will they find him? Will he come back to life? I knew he was coming back. And so on this watch, I was actually able to kind of separate that from my mind and just try to enjoy it. And I did enjoy it a lot more than I did the first time that I watched it. But there's still that kind of like, okay, let's find the body. Oh, I wonder if they're going to find the body. Oh, they found the body. Oh, they just happened to, be able to resurrect him. And I do like how he changes post-resurrection. And the next movie, Star Trek 4, really explores that. And so some good did come out of this movie. This one was also directed by Leonard Nimoy. I incorrectly said that the fourth one was his first one, but this one was his first one. And I think he was still kind of working out the kinks of being a director, because the director before this, Nicholas Meyer, I believe, Robert Wise was the director of the first one. Nicholas Meyer was of the second one. Okay. So the director for this movie, Leonard Nimoy, who plays Spock, I don't think he had everything worked out just yet as a director. But of course, when he comes back for the next movie, Star Trek 4, phenomenal. He really grew as a director from this movie on. There's really no antagonist in this movie that I can remember. I like everything with Genesis, with the planet Genesis, which is where there's a life-creating technology that one of the scientists made in a previous movie, and it lands here and kind of blooms this planet together, and that's kind of how they get noted to the plot early in the movie, is that they find a alien life form that's humanoid. And it's like, oh boy, isn't Spock's, casket down there? Because they just shot it off. And one thing that I'm now remembering is that this movie is really when Spock's father, Sarek, who is played by, I gotta look, Mark Leonard. So, Ambassador Sarek, who is the father of Spock, I think I just completely love him. I love his character. I love his personality. I know Vulcans don't really have a personality because they completely function on logic. They don't use any feelings, and that's why Spock, who is a half human, half Vulcan, has a lot of feelings. That's where a lot of the fun drama comes from Spock. But for Sarek, we get to see him and his relationship with his son post-resurrection, and it is absolutely phenomenal. I love Sarek, and I love that they keep bringing him back after this movie. So that is my number 5 spot for the Star Trek series, is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. So my next one is when we start getting into this one's great, but I can't rank it any higher than the ones that I have ranked higher. This one is Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. I famously said on the live stream, I don't know how many people were mad about me saying this, but I said that I'm trying to find his name. The villain of Sybok is as interesting as Khan. I absolutely love Sybok. He is played by Lawrence Luckinbill, who I've never heard before, or I doubt he's even been in any other movies. But he is absolutely amazing in this movie. There is a bit of a relation to Spock, which we don't really know about beforehand. It is just kind of like, oh, bam, I'm a relative. And it's, okay, whatever. He is trying to find ultimate knowledge and try to find God. And so they venture to the center of the universe. And if you've ever seen any, not pictures, but artistic renditions of the solar system, and you see the center, where it's just that big ball of just light, they go there. And they meet God, but God is not who they think it is. And this movie was just so much better than I thought it was. The first time I watched it, I didn't care for it at all. I may have actually slept through the entire thing for the most part. But I absolutely loved it this watch. Sybok, I think, is the biggest draw for me. This movie's the first movie directed by William Shatner, I believe. And so there's definitely a much different tone to this movie. It's not as goofy and fun as the fourth one. But William Shatner nailed it, in my opinion. I loved this movie. There's a fun kidnapping plot that they try to negotiate and, do treaties for. And then, I don't really know how it ends. It is kind of overshadowed by everything else that's going on with Sybok, who is a peaceful person but will kill if he needs to accomplish his goals. And that's an interesting villain to me, but he's always taking people's pain. There's a really famous part of the ending where we see Sybok and God, and Sybok is like, I see that you are in pain. Share it with me. And he does the big thing. And he does that multiple times throughout the movie. I didn't care for it at all my first watch, but I kind of loved it this time. It's a very unique character. I love that he is just so different than Khan, who is completely revenge focused. There's not really many other antagonists in this series that are memorable, but Sybok and Khan, I think, stand head to head. and toe-to-toe, if you will. So that's my number 4 spot. That is the bottom half. Now we're in the upper half, where all of them are ones I love. They can be kind of interchangeable, but I'm going to say no, because there's specific reasons why there are, some of them are higher than the other. So my number 3, probably the most controversial, is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Khan is a very memorable villain. He makes the movie. Chekhov gets a much bigger boost to his character in this movie. He's a lot more involved. Kirk definitely doesn't want to be there. He is training a new fleet of cadets, of new people, because I guess they wanted to kind of lay the groundwork of passing the torch to the next generation of Star Trek watchers and the new cast. But he is completely reluctant. He does not want to go out with all these young people and adventure anymore. He just wants to stand back. And we have Saavik, who is a Vulcan. But she's played by Kirstie Alley, who is absolutely amazing in Children of the Damned by John Carpenter. That's one that I think a lot of people don't give enough credit for how great she is in that. But a lot of people don't give Children of the Damned any credit. I love that movie. I just watched it recently for the first time. Didn't do a review. I apologize, but I loved it. And she's in it too. But I think the thing that draws me back and ranks this movie as number 3 is the fact that the other ones are just so much better, in my opinion. Or at least it's so much more to enjoy. This one's just a really great drama. There are some really great moments. I love the ending, which, spoilers, but I mean, I've already said it. Spock dies at the end, which Daisuke talked about in his review, and that it got leaked out from the set that Spock was going to die. So they filmed a whole sequence, which ended up being the intro of the film, where Spock actually died in the intro, but it was a training module. So a lot of people, when they went into the theaters to go see the new Star Trek, they knew that Spock was going to die. And so when they saw the intro, they were like, oh, okay, that's what they meant. Okay, so he's not really going to die. Ha ha, you got us, dude. And then they saw the ending, and they just were completely crushed, completely emotional. The scene where it's just Spock and Kirk sitting together, and Spock is saying his final words. Absolutely emotional, very powerful. I love that scene. That's my favorite scene of the entire movie. Because, yes, Khan, is defeated, but Kirk lost his best friend. And it is so, it's just so hard-hitting, so stomach-wrenching, in my opinion. And I remember I actually shed a tear when I first watched the movie, because I was not expecting that. I thought he was just going to go out, like whatever, But they actually gave him a really great death, and this is why Search for Spock is rated so low for me, because the next movie, they bring him back, and we have like maybe an hour without him, from the moment he dies in this movie to the moment he's resurrected. So when you're watching these, back to back to back, like I was, week by week, to watch the live streams, you don't really get to appreciate having Spock, because Spock definitely fills a role with the crew. He's not the comic relief, but he is very humorous with the way he is, where he's always trying to go for logic, but sometimes his emotional side comes up. He's also the science officer, and there's a great bit in Search for Spock in the beginning where Kirk kind of turns to the science officer's chair, and it's like, Spock. Oh. And that's a great moment, but I think we just didn't spend enough time without Spock, and that's why it's rated so low. And I think it would have just been much better if we spent, I don't know, maybe the whole movie with a new science officer, and then they could have kind of, paired up together and tried to, at least Spock tried to teach him the ropes of being an efficient science officer, especially in the Starship Enterprise crew. So that is my number 2, or my number 3, I mean, which is Star Trek 2. So we're going on to spot number 2, and this is one that I think even more people would be surprised about, because by process of elimination, the movie that everybody hates is my favorite. So my number 2 is, of course, Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. This is the famous space whale movie. This is the one where it saved the whales. That's the central theme. And this movie is so funny. Leonard Nimoy directs, and he brings in so much humor to this series and completely refreshes the viewer on Star Trek, because this is movie 4. We've seen the crew over and over again through many years on the TV show and through 3 movies. And after the really depressing second movie and the nobody cares movie number 3, Search for Spock, Leonard Nimoy really shook up the formula, and I absolutely love The Voyage Home. The entire story is that they find a magic space sausage, and it's heading to Earth. It gets to Earth and it starts sucking up all the oceans, all of the atmosphere, and the Starship Enterprise just happens to be around outside of the galaxy, or the orbit of Earth. They are just far enough away where they're not affected by the giant space sausage. And there's some really weird sounds coming from the sausage. And to us humans, we know the sounds of that. It is whale recording. And so when you hear them, you're like, wait a minute, is that a whale? Why is the sausage a whale? Okay, whatever. It sounds cool, That's probably why they used it. And they find out that, very shortly after, Uhura, I believe, is like, this sounds like the pitches that, this specific species of whale emits, under the water. And then everybody's kind of brainstorming, and one person's like, we need to go back in time and save the whales and bring them to the present. And they just go along with it. And it is so fun to watch them adapt and change the plan, because they have to split up. One of them has to go track down a tank for the plane or for the whale and put it onto the ship. Another person has to go figure out how to make the cage. And then another person has to find the whales themselves and try to get them to the ship, and they don't know how. And they meet various people, and we get a really great scientist who works for the whale, I guess water park is what it is. And she is so curious. She cares so much about the whales. And she ends up joining the crew. Or at least joining the Federation of Peaceful Planets, I think it's called. But the Federation, where all of the Star Trek series takes place. But her character is absolutely amazing. I don't think enough people give her credit. I think she's just absolutely wonderful. And I'm so happy that she was not forced to go back to the past. That's one nitpick I have with a lot of movies, is that they go back in time and they're like, no, you can't go with us. It'll mess up continuity and this, that, and the other. And they tried to do that once, and she tricks them because they start to beam up to Enterprise. And Enterprise is cloaked, of course. But they're starting to to beam up, and she just hugs, Kirk, and not forces him, but kind of rides along in the ride to the Enterprise with Kirk, and he's like, okay, you're with us, like, fuck it. You know Wales a lot better than us, so help us out. And, maybe we won't take you back to the present. I'm so happy they let her stay. That was really nice of them. I really like that she was able to stay. I don't know if she appears later in the series with, like, TNG or Deep Space Nine or anything like that. So that is my number 2 choice, and by process of elimination, my favorite movie ever in this series, my number 1 spot is Star Trek, the motion picture. I am still shocked that nobody really likes this movie. I absolutely love it. I love the kind of the behind the scenes bit about how long it took for them to make this movie, and how when they finally got the movie together, they didn't have the most fan servicey intros for all the characters. Spock just walks onto the deck and is like, you need to do this. And then Uhura is like, Spock, wow, it's so good to see you. And he's like, I'm going away now. And he walks off camera. And they don't do that with every character, but they give a lot of great intros to all of the characters. I love Dr. McCoy's intro, or Bones, when he's just hanging out on Earth, having the time of his life in retirement, and they beam him up, and he's in like a 70s like disco outfit. He looks homeless, he has the full beard, and he's like, what do you want? And he totally doesn't want to be there. And it is so fun watching all these characters back together for the first time in a decade. This was the first movie where we actually had a USS Starship Enterprise model, because it's always been just kind of like a 2D drawing, and they would have it, moving along on the camera in terms of the TV show. So we have a very, I don't want to say fetishistic, but it's very much so, where we get about a 3-minute tour of the ship, as everyone on the crew, not driving, but they're flying up in a spaceship to the Enterprise, and we see them all going, ooh, ah, as they fly around over and over and over again, orbiting the ship, because this was the first time where we had a model. And so they really, really took the time to show you every single detail, because that was something the fans wanted. I never even thought about it. But I remember seeing that for the first time, and I was like, God, I was like, this is taking so long. But watching it for the second time, knowing that, I was really able to appreciate it. And now I just feel like watching the movie again. I just really love the first one. I love the tone of the movie. It's a lot more mature than the TV show, which I love the show, of course. But this movie really took Kirk's character into somewhere we've never seen before, where he is Admiral, and he doesn't want to take over command of the ship, but his son, which we find out later, he is now the captain of the ship. And he's trying not to take over because he's a really competent captain, his son. And it would be absolutely rude of him to just walk in and be like, okay, I'm in command now. Okay, fuck off. He doesn't want to do that, and eventually he has to, and they kind of butt heads a bit. There's some really great chemistry between them two. I love the shots when he and McCoy, I believe, are kind of drinking together and hanging out, and his son comes in, and they're kind of talking about legacy, and the doors close, which are like kind of tinted, so they're a bit dark, and it kind of casts, Kirk in this dark shadow to kind of show the internal conflict that he's having, not wanting to just take over the command. And the villain of the movie is called VJ. I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's not really a villain. It's sending out radio waves across the galaxy, across the universe, and the Enterprise pick it up, and there is an intro where we see VJ, a cloud gas of electricity. It's weird. It completely kills the entire Klingon ship and the crew, and that's kind of where we hear about this entity called VJ. And I love the reveal of VJ. If you know, you know. If you don't, go watch it. I love a particular sequence about towards the middle of the movie where the entire crew, Captain Kirk has taken command at this point. He's kind of forced into it, but they jump into warp drive, which is basically like jump speed from Star Wars, where they go really, really fast and you see all the lines go, where they zoom in on, one point. When they do that, there's an asteroid, a very, very big asteroid that completely disrupts the stream that they are flying through really fast, and it goes into this really weird slow motion. You can see people's reflections kind of following them where they're walking, and then it's like, and it is, I love that scene. And there's a point where Chekhov at one point, he's ordered to ready the torpedoes, and because the original captain, he kind of tells them like, hey, we need to shoot and at least try to break up this asteroid, which is like fucking up our entire warp drive jumping. And he's like, torpedoes, and it is so awesome. And I love the sound design of that scene. Everybody's just kind of shaking in the chairs, and it's I love it. It's how I imagine the astronaut in 2001: A Space Odyssey as he goes into the black hole. And oh my gosh, that's one of many sequences that I love. There are some really impressive model work in this movie, especially towards the end as they approach VJ. And oh my gosh, I love the ending to this movie. I love all the characters. If this was the only movie they made, I would have been happy. Like, this is so rewatchable. I absolutely love Star Trek, the motion picture. I don't really want to say too much more. I gotta leave some surprises for y'all. If you haven't seen it, if you have seen it, please let me know what you think. I love Star Trek. I've been really trying to motivate myself to watch TNG. I have a really hard time watching TV shows on my own, especially ones so long running as Star Trek, because I go on Netflix to go see TNG. That's where most of the TV shows are for Star Trek. At least TNG, I believe, is on there, and Deep Space Nine. Maybe Enterprise. I don't think I've seen Voyager on there. But every time I open up TNG, it says, the first episode's an hour and a half. It's a feature-length film. Okay, great. And then it shows, that there are 24 episodes a season. Each one's about an hour long. And there are 6 or 7 seasons. So my brain just immediately, errors out on me and says, nope, we're not going to do that. And we go do something else. I just need to get motivated to go see it. I would love to go into Deep Space Nine first. Everybody says I can, but I have to watch it chronologically. But that's aside from the point. That's just kind of me thinking out loud. Future Star Trek stuff. But that is it for today. Almost 45 minutes. I am not an expert of Star Trek at all. I don't really know anything about Star Trek outside what I've seen in the original series and in the movies. So let me know what you guys thought, what you guys think of my rating. Or ranking. I know a lot of people will disagree. A lot of people say that the even-numbered movies are the best and the odd-numbered 1, 3, and 5 are the worst. I love the first one. The third one I've said is like one of my least favorites. And then number 5 is sitting there at number 4. So, which is like right on the cusp of great for me. But that is all. Thank you all so much for watching if you're at this point.